Everyone is focused on Tinubu. Some are still talking about Atiku. Others are holding on to Obi. But there's one name quietly sitting in the middle of all of this, a political machine that has already proven it can deliver one of the most important states in Nigeria, almost on demand. His name is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. And if 2027 is going to be decided by coalition mathematics, he might be the most important man in the room. Bola Tinubu won the 2023 presidential election with approximately 37% of the vote. He didn't build a majority, he won a fragment in a fragmented field. And that is both his greatest strength and his biggest vulnerability. That means the opposition's project in 2027 is not to defeat a dominant incumbent. It's to consolidate what was already a majority of votes against him. Votes that were split between Obi, Atiku, and Kwankwaso in 2023. This isn't about ideology. It's not even about unity. It's arithmetic. If those blocks hold and merge, the numbers move decisively. The question is whether three very different political personalities with three very different power bases can agree on a single structure before the window closes. That is the tension driving everything that follows. To understand Kwankwasso's value in that equation, you have to understand the Kwankwasiyya, and this is where most outside observers get it wrong. The Kwankwasiyya is not a party. It's a loyalty movement built over decades, through school fees paid, through uniforms distributed, through a personal relationship with ordinary people in Kano and across the Northwest that no party card can replicate. This is not abstract politics. This is personal loyalty built one household at a time. When Kwankwaso moved from PDP to APC and back again, the movement followed him, not the party. That's a rare thing in Nigerian politics, where loyalty is typically transactional and geography-dependent. Now here's the number you need to hold in your head. In 2023, Kwankwaso received roughly 1.5 million votes nationally. That sounds modest for a presidential candidate, but look at where those votes were concentrated, overwhelmingly in Kano, with limited spread to Sokoto, Zamfara, or Kaduna. And that is actually the argument for a coalition, not against it. His ceiling as a solo candidate was low, but his leverage inside a coalition? That's where the equation changes completely. His floor as a coalition anchor in the Northwest is significant. The Kwankwasiyya machine didn't fail in 2023 because the movement is weak. It ran into the reality that no regional bloc wins a Nigerian presidency alone. He is the one man who can potentially consolidate the Northwest without being Atiku and without carrying Atiku's two-decade baggage. For a coalition trying to beat Tinubu, that distinction matters enormously. Look at the zones. A Kwankwaso Obi ticket, if it holds, covers two of the most vote-dense regions in the country. Obi's base is the Southeast, 5 states, tight loyalty, near total bloc voting in 2023. He also carries a layer that cuts across every zone, the urban youth vote. Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, young, educated, disillusioned voters who don't care about ethnicity, who showed up for him in 2023 despite their governors telling them not to. Kwankwaso anchors the Northwest, 7 states, including Kano, Kaduna, and Sokoto, around 18 million registered voters. Even partial consolidation, there is a serious number. But here's where most coalition analyses stop short, and where you need to go further. A presidential win in Nigeria isn't just about total votes. It requires 25% of the vote in at least 24 of 36 states. That constitutional threshold is the actual strategic problem this coalition faces. The Southwest is APC territory. The South-South leans PDP. Parts of the North Central are fragmented. Neither Obi nor Kwankwaso has deep infrastructure in those zones. But, and this is the critical point, they don't need to win those states. They need to clear 25%. A credible campaign with strong ground presence in just 2 or 3 of those swing states could satisfy the threshold without flipping them entirely. That's what makes this pairing analytically interesting. It's not just about winning the popular vote. It's about forcing a crisis of margins and clearing the constitutional floor in enough states to make the result uncontestable. There are 3 structural problems, not one. The first is the VP standoff. Kwankwaso has said publicly and repeatedly that he will not join any coalition without a guaranteed VP slot. Obi's position, and that of his most vocal supporters, is equally firm. He is the presidential candidate, not the running mate. What makes this particularly volatile is that both men now sit inside the same party, the ADC. In practice, it means the confrontation is internal, not diplomatic. There's no negotiating table between 2 parties. There's one party with 2 men who both believe they should be at the top of the ticket. That kind of standoff is harder to manage, not easier, because there's no external pressure forcing a deal. Someone inside the ADC has to blink, and in Nigerian politics, the longer no one blinks, the faster deals collapse behind closed doors. Right now, neither man shows any sign of doing so. The second is the ADC's institutional fragility. Most coalition analyses treat the party vehicle as a minor detail. It isn't. The ADC has minimal national infrastructure, few state governors, thin local government presence, and limited INEC-recognized structures outside a handful of states. In Nigerian electoral law, a party's ability to field credible candidates up and down the ballot, governorship, Senate, House of Reps directly affects its presidential ticket's visibility and ground mobilization. A Kwankwaso Obi ticket running on ADC in 2027 would essentially be 2 powerful personalities sitting on top of an empty pyramid. The votes at the top require votes below them to be activated. Party agents at polling units, ward-level coordination, state-level structure. Without that, even a compelling presidential pairing leaks votes it should retain. The question the ADC has not yet answered is whether it can build that infrastructure in time, or whether it becomes a borrowed vehicle that breaks down on the highway. The third is Kwankwaso's institutional weakness outside Kano. The ADC has almost no national infrastructure below the federal level. If this coalition were to run under that banner, it would essentially be a personality vehicle with no ground game in the states it most needs to perform in. That is why some analysts believe the more likely play isn't coalition building at all, it's Kwankwaso returning to a major party on negotiated terms. Which brings us to the most uncomfortable question in this episode. Is Kwankwaso even available? Because if he isn't, then everything you've just heard doesn't matter. There are credible signals, not fully confirmed, that APC has been in contact. Tinubu's political operation is not naive. They understand precisely what it would mean to neutralize Kwankwaso rather than fight him. A cabinet position, a comfortable role, a financial conversation. These are not hypotheticals in Nigerian politics. They are standard operating procedure. And if Kwankwaso is being courted from two directions simultaneously, his VP demand to the opposition may be less a sincere opening position and more a price discovery exercise. Before you dismiss this as too complicated to succeed, consider the 2015 precedent. Buhari and Osinbajo, a northern presidential candidate who needed a southern running mate to close a credibility gap, specifically to signal to the southwest that this wasn't a mono-regional project. That pairing was negotiated, transactional, and at the time controversial within the APC's own base. It worked. It produced the only successful opposition presidential victory in Nigeria's Fourth Republic. The structural logic of a negotiated northwest and southeast pairing is not new. What's different now is the personalities involved, the legal vehicle, and the timeline pressure. But the template exists. The question is whether the people involved are willing to follow it, or whether ego and institutional inertia will do Tinubu's work for him. The Kwankwaso-Obi pairing is not a fantasy. It's a coalition with genuine electoral geometry behind it. But it faces a VP deadlock, a legal mechanism problem, an institutional infrastructure gap, and a principal who may already be negotiating his exit from the conversation entirely. The people dismissing this haven't done the math, and the people celebrating it haven't looked at the obstacles. In Nigerian politics, elections are rarely won by the loudest candidate. They are won by the coalition that understands the map better than everyone else. Episode 3 brings in two names that will genuinely surprise you: Nasir El-Rufai and Chibuike Amaechi, two former APC heavyweights, two men who built that party, who served under it, and who have now broken from it publicly. The question isn't whether they belong in an opposition coalition. The question is, what do they actually want? And is what they want compatible with what the coalition needs, or are they a Trojan horse? That's episode 3. Subscribe to Political Pulse channel, turn on notifications, and if this analysis added something to how you see 2027, share it with one person who's still sleeping on the coalition question.